Tonight, I look at some concrete, I stare at a wall, and I look out a window. Welcome to another view of what's going on with the whole Homestead mod, or Armor 2 Horror, as I might rename it, depending on which way we go once the whole building of houses thing is done. You'll see here, fast forward, I am actually building a house now, and we're at the point where I've enabled all sorts of different materials. The placing algorithm is going to improve throughout this video, and I'm now at a point where it's almost perfected. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of issues, and I'm still managing to knock myself out with some of these walls sometimes. So that's all in good fun, but towards the end of the video you'll see a really good algorithm, just some tiny adjustments needed now. So what have we got? We have got a selection of wooden walls with windows in them now, and I have a method for adding more materials. So in terms of roadmap, firstly, we need some stairways. You'll see later that I use steel ladders. That's just temporary to actually be able to go upstairs. I need to actually create a 3D model of a stairway. And then I'm going to divide the building materials into 3 groups. Wood, as you see here, which will be easily accessible, can be created using a toolbox and basically some wood piles. It will also be easy to destroy once I get that implemented. The second tier of material will be cinder blocks. I don't exactly know what that will require. I'm thinking maybe a sandbag and some scrap metal, or maybe I'll create a method where you can harvest sand, as it were, down in the quarry or something like that. I'm not sure the foundations yet. I'm thinking 2 sandbags and 2 scrap metal, or 1 sandbag, 1 scrap metal per foundation, to make it a little bit hard to actually get started building. But once you've got your foundation down, building wooden walls is very easy. But again, as I mentioned, the wooden walls and so on will be easy to destroy as well. Cinder blocks somewhat harder, and then at the end I will add concrete, and concrete certainly will be made out of sandbags and scrap metal in significant amounts, making it very hard to make bases or houses that are very hard to destroy. But concrete will be obviously very hard to destroy. You also see in a little bit I've added ceilings, which I thought you might like. The placement of that was giving me some grief, but it's now sorted. It's worth noting that everything you see here is persistent in the database. In about 2 minutes I'll start adding ceilings. That's after a restart of the server, and everything is in place. There's a little bit of jigging about to do with the locking of objects to each other, but everything you see here is persistent, which means that you can build your house, and insofar no one destroys it, it's there forever. I still need to think about whether destroying objects actually removes it from the database, or whether restart would resurrect your house. So let's talk a little bit about roadmap. As I mentioned, we need stairways. We need to get the different types of materials sorted. I need to think about what the recipes are for all of these things. I also want some kind of lighting and generators to be available in the houses. I think later on we could add like custom graphics, and you could put your own paintings on the walls if you wanted a painting of a pink dragon, for example. I'm thinking fences as well. I've already put corrugated fences, metal fences in there. They will be requiring scrap metal to create, just to create a small perimeter around your base. It'd be relatively easy to destroy, obviously. But I'm thinking also wooden fences, so you can get going quickly without having to spend a lot of time gathering material. And then of course it's also just realistic that you can chop down some wood and create a fence. But that's all about the buildings. What I also want to do is create an end game. So the building in itself and defending the building from other players is part of the end game, but actually part of the end game could be to defend it against the creatures of the night. Now, I've mentioned before that I would like to create more of a Bram Stoker-esque, Lovecraft-esque kind of environment, and I'm thinking adding nighttime creatures, dark creatures, into the game might be an interesting take on it. And these creatures, of course, would know where your houses are, and they would be hell-bent on destroying you. Oh, look at that. Ceiling just, hit me in the face. There was a problem with the algorithm there. I'll fix that later. But anyway, I will tell all of these creatures where you are, and they would know how to attack and destroy human-made buildings. That makes for a whole different endgame, because in fact a wooden building like this wouldn't take long for, say, werewolves and zombies to destroy. Ghosts might just pass through the walls, whereas a concrete wall reinforced with steel might actually be a lot harder to pass through. So that means the building something solid to protect you in the night becomes paramount. And not protect you from other players necessarily, but protecting you actually from the wildlife. Then that brings me on to the ambience. So if you think about some of the best horror movies you've seen, there are things like Howls in the Night, from Wolves and what have you, Floating Eyes in the Night, Will-o-wisps, these kinds of things. I want to add triggers around the map that when you go certain places there will be different types of creatures and ambient sounds and noises appearing around the players. So kind of this ominous ambient feeling is what I'm trying to create here. You could think witches, human sacrifices, altars, and so on. So as you can see here, I have built most of what I would call kind of a wooden fort, really, like a play fort, like you had when you were a kid, right? And I'm building, several stories up, and it becomes a right sniper tower, and here we are. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly enjoy doing all of this stuff, and you can see the result. It's well, for a couple of weeks worth of work, I think it's alright. So leave me a comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, let me know what I can do differently, better, any ideas you might have, and until next time, stay frosty.